GRINDSET, inside the mind of successful entrepreneurs with your host, Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack.
Welcome back to another episode of GRINDSET. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels, Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels and Company.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack, your favorite banker.
And today's guest is Austin Baker. Austin is the president of HRO Partners, a human resource consultant and outsourcing firm. You know, the cool thing about Austin, he infuses innovation and creativity into human resources strategy. And because of that, he has a national platform to help people with just all types of things in the human resources field.
Well, I've met Austin out a few times in a few circles, networking. And so what he's about to talk about on the podcast, he's living in real life. And then two, being in a human resources business during this Corona and COVID-19 environment, there's a tremendous amount of pressure and work that's being put on human resources professionals. So I'm definitely looking forward to having this conversation with Austin.
So I'm really excited about this interview today with Austin Baker.
I'm Leslie Lynn-Smith, President and CEO of Epicenter, and we've partnered with KUDZUKIAN. Each episode, hosts Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack talk shop with Memphis' brightest and best entrepreneurs. Check it out by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app or find us on your favorite podcast provider.
Well, no, you had the Buffalo game, but understand New York, upstate New York, they are not moderates by any measure.
They may not,
right?
They may not be, but guess what? Even conservatives get sick.
Funky politics.
On the KUDZUKIAN Network.
GRINDSET.
We are so excited to have Austin Baker, president of HRO Partners, in the studio with us today. How are you doing, Austin? Welcome.
I'm doing outstanding, Cynthia. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Brack and I are super excited, and we have a lot of ground to cover today. So we're going to jump right into this interview. So Austin, tell us, what is HRO Partners and how did it get started?
So HRO Partners is a little bit better than 11 years old now. We have a great team of people that are all smarter than I am that help do a lot of great things for our customers. But HRO stands for Human Resource Outsourcing. And so it came out of my customers' needs from a former company that I built coming out of college. And I ran that company for 10 years before selling it. And it was an insurance and benefits, and HR had some HR services that were more in the enrollment services space.
Okay.
And so we folded that into HRO Partners when I was exiting that company and going to the next one. And so the rest is history. So we've a lot of companies have a lot of HR needs, especially right now, with some of the things that are going on in our world today. But I'm passionate about helping companies grow and become more profitable through better people strategies is what we're all about. And so that's what we do.
So that's really interesting that you were really an entrepreneur, even in undergrad, and that you sold the company, started this one. How did you know when it was time to sell the company and say, okay, I want to solely focus on, human resources outsourcing?
Good question.
Well, yeah, no, thank you. For me, yes, I had a chance to form my first company, first really big company. Actually, my first one was in high school.
Whoa.
Automobile detailing company.
We need an hour long with you, Austin.
But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a glutton for punishment in all the best ways.
I see.
But no, healthcare reform was happening. It was during ACA healthcare reform.
Okay.
And I saw that coming, for several years, and I thought it was going to really change things, and that customers would need more and different services than they ever did before. And so, with an opportunity to sell at the top of the mark before healthcare reform hit, I jumped at it and pivoted from what my customers were already asking me for anyway, and just went back to them and sold them HR products and enrollment services, and it's a wonderful experience that way.
Now, you first started, you said we sold and we started. Who was the we in this equation?
Well, the eServe, the first company, my dad was involved with some insurance programs, and so he mentored me as I was getting going on that. And he was involved in another company that I started. I figured out you could get an insurance license when you turn 18, and so I went and did that because I didn't know any better. And,
I had mine too, so I understand.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go do that because I was busting tables before that, and I didn't want to bust tables anymore. And so I moved out of the house when I was 18, and I printed up some business cards and went at it.
Well, I think for both business, the insurance benefits and the HR, it doesn't take tremendous amount of resources up front to get started. But many people enter into this business and stay a one-person entity. Talk about how you grew your operation, right? From just you and your dad and a couple employees to, what are you up to, 10, 12 employees today?
The HRO, our core team is about 10 people that run things day to day. We've got a number of contractors, and now with the newest companies, we're up to several thousand now across the country that contract with us on a regular basis with the different entities. But in terms of like scaling and like you're right, like how do you go from that like one person show to many?
Yeah, the GRINDSET audience is always interested in scaling.
Always.
Yeah, so I tell you, I made cold calls and I was awful at it, like a lot of them. I was
but
really
you have
bad
to
at
start
it.
somewhere, Austin.
Well, all my old college buddies were still in college, so I couldn't sell them anything, and so they didn't have any money, and so I started calling on businesses, and they would look at me like I had two eyes if I got two heads if I got a meeting with them because I'm this 19-year-old kid walking in there trying to talk to them about health insurance.
Right.
And so I was pretty bad at it. Really, I ate ramen noodles for like 12 different ways in college, and I wasn't making any money. And so I started start networking, and I just like, I've got to meet people face to face, figure out how to interact with them, or they're never going to trust me to do business with them. So I just went to pretty much every event I could go to.
Yeah, networking is key.
There's nothing I miss, and I know a lot of people now. I'm usually pretty good with names, but it's getting more difficult. I'm blessed to have met like just loads of people, but it's also really, I found out as an entrepreneur, it's really not as much about who you know, but who knows you and why they would call you. And so you have to figure out a way to brand yourself and stay in front of them in really specific ways. So that way, when the need's arising, the phone rings. And so being able to make those asks and scale, I learned the hard way, but I learned that I had to network myself very heavily. I mean, it was a daily grind for sure.
Well, there's networking, right? And you can be social with peers, but there's networking with a purpose, such as meeting decision makers and entrepreneurs that own businesses, meeting HR partners. And so talk about some of your intentional networking strategies that allowed you to meet your target market instead of just general networking.
No, you're 100% right. You've got to figure out who your ideal client profile is. A lot of people have customer confusion. They don't ever figure that out.
Customer confusion. I like that term.
They do. They don't really know who their best customer is. And so they end up kind of taking on everyone, and they don't have a system to really categorize their contacts. And so I have categories that I've kept for years in my contact database of influencers, connectors, decision makers, and specific titles that I track, and between LinkedIn groups that I formed years back that have thousands of people and other things, those are the ways that I kept up with it. But in terms of like ground game in the room, those are the kind of the back end organizational things. I never lost a business card. Notes were written every time on the back of them about what we talked about, who their kids were, so I could remember. Not because I was trying to do anything more than have a relationship with them and meeting 20 people, you need to take notes, so anyway, so I would do that. And, but like when I go to an event, I read a few different books that taught me these skills, and I had some people that mentored me. I went to a lot of B&I meetings and things like that. But the best place to be if you're a young entrepreneur or even a starting out is at the check-in table. Because
at the check-in table.
Because you meet everybody. And you see all the names, and you see the roster of people, you get all the information, and you will know exactly who you need to be. So the first thing you should do is volunteer to help check people in. And everyone's going to get to know you. And then the second thing you can do is stand near the organizer of the event. Make sure you get there early, greet them, tell them who you're trying to meet, why, what's going on and to tell the organizer, him or her, what you're trying to do, and then stand close to them, because everyone's going to want to go say hello to that person, and they're going to have somebody to hand them to. And so they're just going to introduce you to people. So now you've gotten the organizer of the entire event to give you influence by introducing you as a person that they need to meet. And
major
it's a simple
keys.
thing. It's a simple thing, but it really works. Or stand next to the speaker. Everybody wants to meet the speaker.
Right.
And so he or she has to hand people to people, because they're going to shake hands with 25 people. So they'll hand them all to you and say, you need to really meet Austin Baker. You need to really meet Cynthia. And I'll say, yeah, I've been dying to meet you.
I love that. And I think back. Yeah, and I think back, Austin and I met through networking. So networking is something that can really help you as an entrepreneur. Now, Austin, I have to ask you, in the wake of social distancing, how have you adapted that strategy as an entrepreneur, still meeting new clients? How are you doing that in the virtual space?
Well, we switched to channel partnerships for our products and services, where we're going to associations and offering them value and revenue, non-dues revenue, to help resell our services and our technologies. And so in that, I can go and make one sale and it turns into 40 or 50 customers.
Wow.
New customers. And so that's our channel distribution strategy now. And so the interactions are important, and the way that we're doing it now is through webcasts of different topics. And so I'm doing one almost every week or so for a different channel partner. And then we have a specific email campaign that they help send out. And when we do that, we are able to stay in front of people. So on average, we'll have 50 to 70 people, companies that are on each of our webcasts. And we, for the ones that find value what we do, we follow up with them. We market to them that way. And so that's what we're doing now is, it's just, I'm creating my own virtual rooms and inviting everybody in.
Well, look, Austin, thank you for sharing quite a few major keys in this first segment. I'm sure the GRINDSET audience will appreciate it. But when we get back, we're going to talk about the first 12 months of HRO and maybe even some growing pains for budding entrepreneurs.
GRINDSET. Riffin' on jazz.
When two friends get together to kick it
about jazz, it's called Riffin' on Jazz.
Catch us riffing on jazz every week right here on your favorite broadcast or podcast platforms.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN! GRINDSET.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We're here with Austin Baker, president of HRO Partners. We talked about what HRO Partners is and how well you're doing now and your ability to even spin off to another national company. But talk to us about the first 12 months of HRO Partners.
Sure. Thank you. The first 12 months, it's almost like when you have a toddler, you kind of forget those days sometimes. and then you go and start a new company like I did last year. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be easy. No, it's not.
Right.
I think that everyone that gets into entrepreneurship that's expecting it to provide them more freedom and more time should expect that they're going to have to invest twice as much or 3 times as much to get to that point than they ever have before. And you have to segment your time, I found, in the first 12 months of your operations. Cash is oxygen for business, and cash comes from customer acquisition. And so without oxygen, you can't breathe in your business. And so when you're trying to scale in the first 12 months, cash management is exceedingly important. And so understanding your ideal client profile, how many you have to get to close deals, and what that looks like, whether it be a B2B or B2C, whatever your thing is the biggest thing for the first 12 months. And so they were 60, 70 hour weeks were light weeks, to be honest.
Okay.
And they, it was really a big undertaking for sure. So it was you can segment your time into three different categories: green, yellow, and red. And if you look at your calendar every single week and you color code green, yellow, and red, you'll figure out why you're either making money or not. Because your green time is when you can make money. Your yellow time is when you're preparing to make money. And your red times when your downtime, like maybe you have to reset or personal time or just administrative type of things that aren't going to do any of those things. And the more green you have on your calendar, the more green you're going to have in your pocket. Simple as that. I'm not trying to be crass, but it's like if you're trying to build oxygen in the business, you've got to figure out, well, during your selling hours, whatever they are for you, for your business, you've got to know that, that's your prime time. And if you're not going to spend those selling hours in front of a prospect or a customer, then you're not making any money. So it's simple as that. So it's green, yellow, and red time and managing that appropriately.
In that first 12 months, what was your timeline to profitability? Or was it instantaneous since you're a service-based company?
No, it was not. I mean, every business model is going to have a fixed and a variable cost. And so you've got to get past that fixed cost, whatever you've decided that is. For me, I need a lot of people to help me. I mean, just look at me like I need help all day long. I have 2 different assistants for different companies that manage my personal and professional lives. And so I have to have that. So that's a fixed cost. I needed a place to operate out of and bring my team together. That's a fixed cost. I needed to have a payroll system and some basic technology, to have and run. And, so those are all fixed costs. And then from there, it was about what it costs per customer is, per customer acquisition, and so understanding what that looks like gets you to profitability faster. And so when you're developing that runway of how much cash you have to be able to get that fixed costs and variable costs, formula right, that's going to determine how quickly you can get. And so for me, it took around 14 or 15 months or so to really get it going well enough to get past that. And, I especially in a services-based business, which we've been transitioning more and more to managed services, where it's subscription-based. Okay. That's moved us away from the projects that go up and down when you have revenues going like this, and so we've done a lot of big projects, here, and they're wonderful, but they can eat you alive and you can have no business at the end of them as well. And so you have to understand how to manage those things and let the whales be your profits and not be your bread and butter. Well,
listen, here on GRINDSET, we always want to discuss the evolution. So talk to me about how you went from bussing tables, right, to talking about green, yellow, red on the calendar, break-even analysis, proper networking, and mention the influence of 1, your father, and 2, the personal time you invested into your education and learning how to properly run a business.
No, from the time I was 13, my dad brought me on meetings with him, and he would tell me to sit down and listen.
Wow.
He would tell me what the meeting was about, what was going to happen, and sometimes he let me ask a question at the end. So he taught me how to listen early on, how to run a meeting right, and how to ask questions. And so a lot of people are looking for the right answers in life, and they should be looking for the right questions. And so if you don't know what questions to ask, you can't run your business. And so I didn't know what questions to ask. Right. So I had to go, you can't connect dots you don't have. And so if you're going to connect dots in your own business and your own personal development, you've got to be willing to invest in yourself heavily. And so I did that. I went through Leadership Memphis at a very early age, coming out of college. I went through the Nexus Leadership Program, which was a part of Impact Memphis at the time. I helped build the Model Leadership Program out of that program, which is at U of M. But that's where I invested my time. And I don't know how many business books I read. I have a whole bookshelf in the office, and I have another one at the house that's probably 200 or 300, I would guess.
Mm-hmm. So. But you're always learning. You don't stop.
I've got 3 on my bedside table right now. So
that's important as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to decide to be a lifelong learner. As a leader, you have to learn faster than your team, and you have to figure out a way to be able to get out in front of that if you're going to see wider. And you got to be able to learn ahead of your team to figure out where you're going.
Awesome. And so you've kind of brought us back to current day, Austin. You talked about the first 12 months of your business, which was, very transparent. But I would love to know, what was the moment where you looked up and said, okay, I've got this thing going. I'm ready to take this on a national scale. Can you talk a little bit about where your company's been these last few months?
Well, I'm a big believer in, BHAG's big, hairy, audacious goals from good to great. And
you are a big reader.
He's showing off, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, I do. It was one of my favorite books. I've read it several times. And the principles were true, even though those companies, he had to write a second book to talk about why they weren't around anymore. Some of them, because just the change is happening so quickly in our economy today. The turnover change is happening. And so I think that I always had a big goal of the number of customers, the number of people I wanted to serve on an annual basis, it being more than 1 million people a year. That I figured I wanted to be able to touch more than 1 million people a year. And we reached that goal in terms of employees count. It was an employee count number. And I knew I wanted to go national just because of the size of the Memphis marketplace and studying other markets and understanding where I needed to be. And so I was, my mentors really, from a learning standpoint, I developed early on as well, a peer advisory group that I joined. And I sought out peers in other cities, and I put these groups together saying, hey, you're doing what I do in your city.
Yeah.
We're not competing. Let's talk. Let's do it on some frequency, and let's talk about what's working and not working, because all of them have been doing it way longer than I had. Everybody that works for me for most of my life has been much more experienced than I have. So I've had to figure out how to leverage that. And so from that peer advisory group, we built national enrollment partners, and we came together to share resources to do that and launched that roughly 18 months ago. And in our first year in business, we now have over 10,000 customers and manage over $200 million worth of business. And so we had 70 million in sales last year. It was a great year, and we're expecting to double up this year. So it's got me in 17 cities now.
That's absolutely incredible, Austin. Number one, congratulations on that. I love that you have a peer group. I think it is important in this society that it's great to do things in your city, but we live in this world where, like you said, people are doing the exact same things you're doing. Why not have, people that hold you accountable, right? And help you to grow. So, again, you're turning a profit this year, which this has probably been the most difficult year for a lot of entrepreneurs. Do you find yourself in the virtual space? Did you have to go out and hire people in these other markets, or has it just been, relationships through networking that trust you? Like, you're out of Memphis, but we trust you to hold our account in this particular city. How does that work?
Yeah, so we've developed a network of enrollment firms, benefit enrollment firms. It's one of our main lines of business. And through that, accessing their customer base and helping them back office. And so what I did was I created a virtual company to support them that would be networked across the country. And with us creating a virtual enrollment service and a virtual HR service, and the coronavirus happening, it's fueled our growth, and we're bringing on people exceedingly fast right now, helping companies save dollars. And so we were ahead of the curve by building a nationwide virtual call center. And so we have more than 8 or 10 new people coming on every single week into our operations across the country. And so developing a system to do that was the big deal. And so one of the things I found is that when a good person meets a bad process, the bad process always wins. And you have to have, if you're going to have great technology and you're going to connect people and you're going to connect companies, you've got to be able to upgrade the processes too, and make those processes better, more efficient. And so we built a process, we built a platform, and we built kind of an Uber of enrollment services, really and truly. And so that's what we're up to these days.
I just love that. And tell me, Austin, before we close out, what currently drives you? What keeps you going and motivated day to day?
My passions are in mentorship and in helping other people. And so I get to do that professionally when we're working with them from an HR standpoint. And, we're helping working Americans protect their families every single day. I get calls and emails about if they had not had a counseling session with one of our people, they would not have been able to withstand something that happened to them. And so that's what drives that side of it. But personally, I pour my resources into helping a lot of people that have been left behind.
Right.
And I believe in that strongly, and it's important. And so there's a lot of people, if you try to drive north and south off of Poplar, you're going to see something different than east and west. And so you have multiple generations of poverty that have been in these communities. And so I was passionate about working with the team to help launch universal pre-K in Shelby County. And we did that. It took us 8 years. And First Date was launched. And so
I remember that initiative.
So seeing success in First Date was a big portion of that. And so that's, so doing those kind of programs and having the freedom to help influence and change things that way is what drives me most days.
I love it. Austin Baker, president of HRO Partners. We have a little bit more to talk about. We're going to look at what's in store for this young man and, what initiative he has under his belt, because I know he doesn't stop, right? I'm sure he's going to launch another thing sooner than we even know.
GRINDSET.
R&R on Sports.
Former NBA basketball player, Brother Mario Ellie. Welcome to R&R on Sports.
Pleasure to be on here with you guys, man. Thank you guys for having me.
It's R&R on Sports.
KUDZUKIAN. GRINDSET.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We've been listening to Austin Baker, president of HRO Partners and co-founder of National Enrollment Partners as well. So after 10 years of HRO, you said you were a glutton for punishment at this point, and now you've started the National Enrollment Partners, which is just growing out the wazoo, even through Corona. But sometimes the growth in business and the growth in revenue can outpace capital. So how are you keeping up with the growth of both HRO and National Enrollment Partners financially?
So that model, we built a fractional contractor and employment base that's able to come on to various jobs and programs as we need them. And so we built an on-demand workforce and then we figured out a way to staff them and keep them busy amongst all of our partners to share talent. And so when I built the financial model for it, I was able to, really figure out a way that we could leverage that, to be able to have a low capital business with high profit margins, providing tremendous value for our customers to be able to get past that. And so now we've taken those margins and we've reinvested into other technologies and other systems and programs and talent that help continue to make us even more efficient and service our customers better. And so we built I built the financial model to kind of to not outpace itself, and it worked pretty well in the first year. We were able to raise money from the partners. We all invested together, 13 of us co-invested there. We've had some private equity groups and people that we're speaking with, but I'm only letting them really be in an advisory role right now. Consulting, which is not inexpensive, but is very valuable.
I guess for me, Austin, one of the things I'd love to know, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, this is a tough business and you're building something out of the ground by yourself, but I've learned that you still have to have people that support you in that process, right? At some point, you have to turn off the switch and just be able to be with family. And I know, again, you and your dad have an amazing relationship. Can you talk about maybe how he's really motivated you throughout the years, or if there are other supportive people that have just helped you stay sane in this world of entrepreneurship?
Sanity is fleeting sometimes as an entrepreneur, by all means, and it can be pretty lonely, being the top of an organization. As a leader, we're expected to. I talked about before. You're expected to learn faster.
Right.
You're expected to recover faster. You're expected to see further. You're expected to see wider. And to be able to do that, you have to lead yourself first.
Right.
And being able to do that in a positive way is not easy. I've had plenty of dark moments where I've probably almost gone bankrupt 4 or 5 times just betting everything on whatever was next.
Okay.
And I've been fortunate enough to get past some of those bigger risks, those were early days, of things of just deciding to get past that. When you're putting everything out there, then you have all that risk, it can weigh on you. And so mental health is pretty important. And so
right.
The value of friendships, if you want a friend, you got to be a friend. and true friends are glaringly obvious. And so you got to be intentional about your relationships there and to be able to maintain your sanity. And so, that's what's helped me more than anything else is to be really intentional. Mm-hmm. I have a kind of an advisory group of some mentors I meet with on a regular basis that help me keep my head right. And, a lot of people that around me to help me be able to recover quicker, be able to figure out how to, stay positive and stay in front of the team in the right way.
What? I didn't mean to interrupt, Cynthia, but this mental health theme has been huge on the GRINDSET show.
Yeah.
You toured entrepreneurs, but the mental health thing just keep running in and out of nearly every episode we do. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's important. I think there's no stigma around, being able to keep your mind right and try to stay on top of things. And I have financial advisors. I've had mental health, specialists I've met with before as well, and that have helped me. And so, there's some really good books about as well that really help you kind of manage yourself and manage the way you interact. Some of my favorite stuff is around transactional analysis, actually.
Okay.
And so, what probably one of the most famous books was "I'm Okay, You're Okay." I think was something like that. But there's
a great book.
yeah. And so, but those kind of things help you be a better leader. Number one, but I've invested in. I've had batteries of tests run on me. They haven't put me in a straitjacket quite yet. But I did have an IO psychologist sit down with me one time, and they didn't know any of my background, and he had a whole book of evaluation. It was this thick. It's literally like we're sitting there, and he's interviewing me, and he doesn't know like my background or like who I am. He just knows my profile because they wanted to have that interaction. This is a high level leadership program I was going through. And he looked at me, he's just sitting there really uncomfortable. He's like, are you like at risk of getting fired? Have you been fired a lot? I was like, what's going on with my profile there, buddy? Right. And I was like, well, actually, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18. He's like, oh, that makes sense.
It makes sense,
you probably get fired anywhere else you work. And so I get fired by customers all the time. It happens. Sometimes it's a fit, sometimes not. No means not right now, buddy. So let's keep going.
Right. Oh, what I tell you here on GRINDSET, we talk about mentorship, which you mentioned that several times throughout the interview. I'd love for you to share some nuggets with the people that are listening. We have a lot of people that are still working 9-to-5 jobs. They're toying with the idea of entrepreneurship, but sometimes they need that push. Austin, can you tell me what are some of the earliest and most valuable lessons you learned from your business mentors? Maybe this is something that can help someone listening and help them go ahead and take the jump.
Sure. Definitely one of my mentors, and still is, one of my favorite people, author of more than 30 books. His name's Bob Beal. He was involved with the Nexus program when I was doing that and helping lead that. He taught me about the value of questions, and he sat me down one time and he said, Austin, if you were told that you had 90 days to live, if you were told you had a year left to live and you could only do 3 things to make a difference 100 years from now, what would you do and why? He was trying to get to my passion. And another one was around the 90 days question where he would say, okay, what are you going to do the next 90 days to get to that? And really be specific about it. And so he taught me about, if you ask profound questions, you get profound answers, shallow questions, shallow answers, and no questions, no answers at all. And so I've collected questions for more than 20 years of entrepreneurship. Wow. And I keep a book of them about what questions to ask in different scenarios. And so that was probably one of the most valuable lessons I learned from a mentor. Okay. Was that you needed to know what questions to ask to solve a business problem, to help a customer, to purchase a car. You need to know what questions to ask, and you've got to figure out how to get to those questions. And that's where mentors come in, because they've been there and they've asked the questions.
They've
and
made the mistakes.
They're going to help you ask the right questions. Say, hey, before I did that, next time I wish I'd asked myself X, or I wish I'd found out about this. And so my mentorship programs, that I've helped build over the years, more than 14 years now, we've had over 2,000 people come through them and taught people how to do mentorship and how to do mentorship and all about it. And I've helped build and recruit mentors. I had an initiative to help recruit more than 10,000 new mentors in Memphis, and we had over 1,000 in our first year we recruited. And so when we're teaching mentorship, it's about the other person's agenda, not yours, if you're a mentor. And so you want to find mentors that are willing to come on to your best interests, to keep those at heart,
right,
and to give you advice based on that. And so there's some pretty specific strategies and some wonderful books that I can send you a list of if you want to send them out.
No, I love that. And I think one important thing to share is that you're never too old for a mentor. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, if you're in college or, your first few years, in your job, but you're never too old, even 40 plus. Get a mentor if you're listening.
Absolutely.
So Austin, this has just been such an incredible interview. How do we find you? What are your business websites, since you have more than one? Tell us your phone numbers. How can maybe a CEO listening now to say, I need to bring in HRO partners to help me? How can they contact you?
Well, sure. Well, HRO-partners.com is our web address, but you can find me on LinkedIn if you search Austin Baker, and that's probably the best way to find me as well. So if you just search Austin Baker and HRO Partners on LinkedIn, you can find me that way. So connect up and reach out. I'm happy to help.
The website is really nice, by the way. I checked it out as some of my show prep. Good job on whoever did shout out to whoever did your website.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, Austin, thanks again for joining us on GRINDSET. I have a tremendous amount of major keys to share after the fact. So very grateful for you coming on the show and sharing with us.
Happy to be here, and I appreciate y'all. I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's important work, and I hope that your listeners find as much value as I have listening to y'all as well. So thank you for all you do.
Absolutely.
Just a wealth of knowledge. Thank you, Austin.
You've been listening to GRINDSET, and we'll be right back with the major keys and woman power moment after the break.
GRINDSET.
I'm Leslie Lynn Smith, President and CEO of Epicenter, and we've partnered with KUDZUKIAN. Each episode, hosts Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack talk shop with Memphis' brightest and best entrepreneurs. Check it out by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app or find us on your favorite podcast provider.
KUDZUKIAN.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Austin, mostly because there was a principle that was underlying in the conversation. And that is, it's not enough to read. You have to start applying the books that you read. And based on the conversation we had with Austin today, he proved to be very good at applying some of the things that he read. And so let's start at some of the major keys, and we're going to start with networking. And it's not enough to just network. You need to network with where your target audience, your target market is. You need to understand your ideal client profile just to avoid customer confusion. And Austin kind of segmented his by influencers, connectors, and decision makers. And he used LinkedIn as a way to kind of segment those people. But even with networking, you still have to be creative. How do you stand out in a room with everybody who's trying to meet everybody else? And Austin has some tips like working the check-in table, standing by the host or the speaker and allowing them to introduce you to people. And when you start networking, you will meet a tremendous amount of people. And Austin takes notes on note cards anytime he meets people, and he's never lost a card. I don't know how many of us can say we've never lost a business card, but Austin is making that claim. But then as you enter into business, you can sell customers one-to-one. You can call one business and make one sale, or you can do like Austin did with National Enrollment Partners and talk to one customer and make multiple sales across the country. And then most importantly, cash is the oxygen for your business. If you're in a high capital, low profit margin business, anytime anything's go bad, it will be a struggle to survive. And then what I want to leave you with is, instead of seeking the right answers, start seeking the right questions to ask. And that will always lead you to the answers you need. Cynthia?
Yes, I absolutely loved today's podcast. I mean, it had so many different layers. I took notes myself. Definitely have to delve into a little bit more reading. But I just enjoyed a lot of the nuggets shared today. when I thought about the woman power quote, Austin is a leader. And so I think I nailed it today. So let's see, Bragg. Let me see if I can.
Phenomenal woman.
Phenomenal woman, I am. Right. So the quote for today, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And that is from John C. Maxwell. And again, as Austin said, as a leader in a company, as the CEO, president, whatever title you have for yourself as an entrepreneur, you need to be at the forefront of your company. You need to know things before they actually happen so you can help your employees feel engaged and informed. So again, incredible interview today.
Listen, it's not enough to listen and take notes on GRINDSET major keys. Start applying some of the information all of your peers are sharing with you, and your business will grow and thrive. You've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll see you next episode.
GRINDSET, executive producer Epicenter. GRINDSET is directed, produced, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.